Okay, so I'm here today with Tom Cullen of TC Management. Tom is the owner and proprietor of this wonderful service. Definitely look them up. They do all sorts of things. They do abatement, they do excursions, they even have birds for sale. Now, I don't want to overshadow what Tom has to say because I'm really interested in all of his work, and he's got a new bird here. What is this again?
This is an Aplamato falcon.
An Aplamato falcon, and you said it was full grown?
It's full grown. It's only about 9 weeks old. It was just taken out from its parents about 2 weeks ago. I just started working with it.
Yep.
And it should be free flying in probably by the end of the month.
Oh, it's a gorgeous creature. Okay, so talk to me. How did you get into falconry to start with?
So I was kind of born into it. I'm a second generation falconer. Both my parents were falconers before I was born.
Wow. Okay.
So they were already licensed before I even came into the world. So my entire life I've spent taking care of birds and working with birds. I always joke that when most kids' chores were clean the dishes and do the, take out the trash, mine was the same, except I also had to go feed the birds.
Wow, that's amazing. So your parents were both licensed falconers before you were even born. Do they still practice?
Yep, they still do. They've,
Yeah.
gotten at it. It's back to being a hobby for them. It's no
Right.
longer business. I've taken over that part for it. They just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Breeding birds was always something that was a big hobby for them, so they're still very much involved in that. And my dad still flies birds on a regular basis.
Okay, so do you have brothers and sisters?
I have one sister. She has absolutely no interest in birds.
It's just absolutely okay. It always works out that way,
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
Okay. Well, I think you're lucky. She's probably lucky too, but you're definitely lovely. You're definitely lucky to be working with these lovely birds on a regular basis. So you haven't named this one yet, right?
I have not named them yet. I like to wait till I figure out their personality, and
Yeah.
since I've just started working with them, still got a little time before I figure that out.
How many birds do you have?
We have over 100.
Are you serious?
Yep, I'm very serious.
So, I don't know. Let's just backtrack. How do you house over 100 birds?
We have 6 barns with different aviaries, so
Yeah.
a lot of our birds are focused on the breeding project that we have.
Okay.
So they're in like big rooms that they're free flighted in, that they're paired up with their mate. So as they have free range to do whatever they want, and we just kind of provide care for them and food for them and everything, and they have all their exercise that they need. But at basically this time of the year, they produce babies, and we get to keep the babies.
So they get to choose their own mate, for the most part.
Yeah, if it doesn't
Yeah.
work out with a bird that we put them together with, then we will switch them up to make sure that they're successful and stuff like that. And
Yep.
sometimes it does kind of take a little bit of a working process to
Yeah.
figure it all out. In my experience, it's always the males that are the trouble. The females are never the issue.
Okay. No comment there. Okay, all right. So over 100 birds, and then how many did you start with initially?
Well, so my father got into it when he was 10 years old. He watched a Disney film called Rusty and His Falcon that is back in the 60s when they first aired it, and they never play it anymore because half the stuff the kid does in it is illegal nowadays. So I think it's been stricken from the Disney library. But he watched that video and he caught the bug. So I think when he was about 14, he got his first red tail. Started working with red tails almost exclusively, and then he moved over to the UK right after college, or kind of during college, and basically lived over there for the next 10 years learning all about falconry.
Okay.
So when he came back and started living in the States, and him and my mom got together, that's when they started kind of settling down, and that's when they started accumulating more and more birds for the breeding project. But for
Okay.
many years, he was just kind of a wandering nomad.
Right. Okay. So how do you feed 6 barns full of birds?
So we generally feed the birds a mixture of rodents, quail, or day-old baby chickens. With rodents, there used to be a facility over in Kingston, or kind of a little south of Kingston, that was called Charles River.
Yep.
Laboratory facility. They used to give, not necessarily give, but would provide excess food to myself, like local falconers and local rehabilitators, people that help injured wildlife.
Yep.
They have since stopped that. So we've been kind of looking for new sources and stuff like that.
Yep.
But the places that produce chickens for consumption, normally they keep all the females and just kill off all the males because they have no use for them.
Oh.
So we get the males for super cheap.
Oh, okay. I guess that's efficient. I like the idea of that. It's not wasting a life. So then, what is a chicken hawk?
A chicken hawk generally just refers. It was just a term that came up with birds that went after people's chickens.
Okay.
Generally, chicken hawks are some sort of buteo hawk, essentially.
Yep.
So around here we have the red-tailed hawk.
Yep.
In Europe it would be the common buzzard.
Yeah.
Basically the same sort of thing. It's the bird that goes after the chicken. The peregrine falcon used to be known as a duck hawk.
Oh, okay.
Because they go after ducks.
Okay. All right. There's so much I didn't know.
I'm one of the only people in New York State providing the service.
Really?
There's maybe only one or two other people, and they're up like in Rochester and on the other sides of the state. I'm the only one close to New York City in our area of Dutchess County and around here.
Okay, so that's what I want to get into next, which is the idea of using birds of prey to control rodent populations. I think it's a fantastic idea because it's just healthier for everybody.
So with rodent populations, it's not as common here in the United States, but if you go over to Europe, you're allowed, if you had a house with a nice backyard, you could have a pair of barn owls.
Okay.
And without any licensing or anything, like you could have just a pair of barn owls breeding in the backyard. And it's very common over there for people to have a pair of barn owls and release the young year after year after year.
Okay.
So that takes care of all their rodent basically control for the whole neighborhood, essentially.
Right.
And if enough neighbors do it and there's enough barn owls in the area, nobody has to put out rodenticide or anything like that.
Yeah.
As far as using birds for rodents, that's not really something that we do.
Okay.
Because normally I don't want my birds catching any rodents that are around here because of issues with people giving, the poisons and everything like that. If my bird catches it and I can't get to it quick enough, she'll start eating it, and then I could be in trouble.
Yeah.
But also just the nature of them, they react to smell and stuff like that. So it's much easier to draw them out of the places that they're hidden and stuff like that to areas where you want to catch them and stuff like that.
Okay.
Whereas we deal mainly with birds, other, pigeons, seagulls, geese, things like that.
Okay.
With them, there's no drawing them out with any smell or anything.
Yeah.
So if you have pigeons going into tiny little crack of the roof of your building, there's no way to get to them. There's no way to get them back out again. The only way you have to do is basically introduce a predator like this.
Okay. So good. So then explain to me the scope of your abatement services.
Okay. So we kind of handle everything, and a lot of the times, pest companies are big, giant billion-dollar companies that spend, tens of $1,000,000 every year on advertising.
Yeah.
So they get all the big contracts. They say, we take care of every pest problem you have.
Okay.
Right? And they're experts at dealing with rodents and insects.
Yeah.
Birds are a completely different issue, but they tell all their customers, yes, I can handle a bird issue for you, no problem,
Okay.
And they bring in a bunch of products and sell you on them and install them, just reading basically manufacturer's instructions and stuff. And never really get you any real results because they're not specialized to deal with birds. Birds are a special kind of subset.
Yep.
So a lot of the jobs that I get, because I don't spend all that money on advertising, it's companies and people and businesses and stuff like that have called 5 or 6 pest companies up to that point.
Okay.
Have had no success with all the products that they brought in and all their ideas that they've come to.
Yep.
And they finally say, you know what, I think I just need a predator. I need a predator to come in and get rid of these birds.
Yeah.
And that's when they finally start searching for me. And once they search for me, then I solve their problem. Because not only have I spent my entire life working with these birds, but I've spent my entire life using these birds to hunt the birds that are making your life more difficult. Pigeons, geese, seagulls, stuff like that. So not only do I know how to manipulate her behavior to do what I want in the field to go after the birds that we want, I also understand the behavior of the birds that are causing all the pest issues.
Okay, so in the future you can then apply that knowledge that you've learned.
When I show up on a job, I'm assessing everything that's going on with the bird problem, how I can fit my set of skills into it, but everything that we do constantly evolves. I was taught in school, learning is a change in behavior.
Yes.
Anytime I do anything to force a bird's behavior to change, I'm forcing it to learn. So anytime I'm introducing something new that's going to try and scare it, repel it, do everything like that, it's just teaching it how to basically avoid that, go around it, go to someplace else where those aren't at, but they'll still stay there because you're still providing food, water, nesting areas. Those are the 3 main things that birds are looking for.
Right. Okay, so what kind of pest birds are you normally trying to deal with?
So pigeons, starlings, and sparrows are the easiest because they're non-protected.
Okay.
They're an invasive species here to the United States, so that our laws are only regarding humane kind of
Yeah.
dealings with them. There's no laws regarding federal laws
So
regarding
pigeons are an invasive species?
are an invasive
I
species.
don't think I knew that. I thought
Yeah.
they were residents of New York City.
You know,
Okay.
it's hard. It's easy to get confused when you show up to New York. They said it must have been
Yeah.
pigeons here first before
Well, that's
everybody
exactly
else.
right.
Yeah. No,
They're
pigeons.
crossing the street and everything.
Pigeons are just a common term. Their actual kind of scientific name or common name for their scientific is a rock dove. And rock doves originally came from Europe
Yep.
and North Africa, and they've expanded all around the world. Basically.
Okay. Okay.
Same with sparrows, same with starlings. Came from Europe. We introduced sparrows into this country about 100 years ago to deal with insect problems.
Yep.
And they didn't deal with any of the insect problems and just populated.
So that I knew about, right? So the house sparrows are basically an invasive species, and they present a problem with like bluebirds and other less aggressive species.
Yep.
Is that one of the bird populations you might deal with?
Yep. So, and it also depends on the type of job. We do kind of indoor jobs and outdoor jobs. They're completely different. We'll have, a Lowe's or a Walmart has got little sparrows caught inside of it
Yep.
and want to get rid of them.
Oh, but I like it when I go in there and I'm inside and they're chirping
See 'em
inside the
bouncing
store.
around. Exactly. I like it too, but,
Yeah.
Walmart, who's selling
I
food
get
products
it.
and stuff like that, they, for health and human safety
Yeah.
issues, they can't allow those things to stay in there, or at least they need to be showing that they're doing something about, getting rid of them.
That's fair.
So for for inside of those buildings, those little sparrows tend to be the most common.
Yep.
Inside larger warehouses and stuff like that, it tends to be more pigeons and starlings. So solar panels, that's where you get a lot of, like, especially not so much here on the East Coast, but you'll get a lot of on West Coast grackles.
Okay.
Where they'll land in the tens of thousands.
Yep.
And they'll just, solar panel, nice open field.
Yeah.
They'll just, land on there for a few seconds, crap them all up, and then,
Yeah.
cover them, and then move on to the next area. We do get that with starlings here, but more kind of in Western New York, where it's more open and stuff like that.
Yeah.
As opposed to kind of this part of New York, where it's much more woodlands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Starlings tend to be around farms and stuff like that. So anytime
Yeah.
there's more of that open area, that's where you find a lot more starlings.
Okay. Okay. And then what about the geese?
Geese are, they're problematic in almost any athletic fields, golf courses, airports. That's where we originally started. We had the first abatement contract in the country, which was at JFK Airport. And JFK Airport is right next to the Gateway National Refuge, which I think when they did the studies in the early 90s, there was over 7,000 laughing gulls being bred there every year.
Wow.
So just imagine, you're taking off of your plane and your runway goes right over the top of where 7,000 seagulls basically take up and get up into the air every day. So they originally brought us in as the trial program. We had that contract. We showed that it worked, and they continued it for the next 15 years or so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any of those bigger birds, because the jet engines nowadays are designed to be able to withstand smaller birds,
Right,
and even
right.
many smaller birds, so it can fly through a flock of starlings and basically just chop them up. And it's terrible, but they've been designed to do that because of the issues that they've had
Yeah.
in the 70s and 80s, where they're sucking them up into jet engines of multi-million-dollar military aircrafts.
Yeah.
And they're going down.
Well, even recently, that was the whole Captain Sully thing, is
Exactly.
because it was birds that got caught in the engine.
Yep.
So I like the idea of using birds of prey. We don't want them to die no one wants them to get in the engine, so just scare them away from the area, and then, everyone, including them, is happier for it.
That's exactly right. So
Yeah.
it kind of, depending on the situation, depends on
Yeah.
what we do. With an outdoor situation like JFK
Yeah.
or an open park or athletic fields or something like that,
Yeah.
if I just show up with my hunting
Yeah.
falcon and I do just a little kind of training exercise in the field with her or out at the end of the runway with her,
Yeah.
for us, it just looks like a training exercise, just looks like the falcon's flying around me and stuff.
Yeah.
But for any bird in the area, all they see is her wing flap, and they say, that's a predator right there.
Yeah.
For us, that's shark in the water. For them, there's a falcon in the sky.
Yeah.
They want nothing to
They
do
want
with
nothing to do
it.
with
So
it.
they'll see
Okay.
it, and they'll just immediately go the opposite direction.
Okay. Okay. All right. So now talk about your excursions.
So the excursions were something that we started, over 20 years ago, just because basically, we did it as a hobby, falconry as a hobby, and people just kept saying, I'd love to come visit, I'd love to come see what you guys do, I'd love to go out and fly birds with you. And, for friends and family, it's no big thing, but,
Sure.
when I'm meeting somebody on the side of the street because I have my bird on my fist, I wanted to be able to offer the same sort of ability to get up close and personal with the birds.
Yeah.
It's the most amazing experience of my life is learning about them and seeing what they're able to do up close.
Yeah.
I always say, if you take a kid to the zoo, it has an effect on them. They go, wow, look at those animals and stuff like that. But if you were able to just get them just a little bit closer to the animals, to the
Yes.
point where they could almost just touch them and stuff like that, it makes just a world of difference on the impact that animal has and what they want to do with animals going forward. Even if they never want to work with them, just being conscientious, environmental stewards and stuff like that,
Yeah.
it makes a huge effect. If I can put a bird on somebody's fist and
Yeah.
allow them to, let it go, it goes up in the tree and comes back and flies down to their fist again,
Yeah.
it changes everybody's life. Just
Yeah.
their perspective on everything, on nature, what's around them. They're, I'll show people these birds, and the next day I'll get a call from them and said, I was driving down the road, I never noticed how many hawks there were around here and stuff like that.
Yep.
And it's just because they see what a bird looks like, they know what
Yeah.
it is, and now they're much more interested in seeing them.
Yeah, and they want to become citizen scientists and, like you said, good environmental stewards.
Yep.
Okay.
So the excursions were basically, like I said, just to allow people to come to our facility.
Mm-hmm.
We bring the birds out. You put on the glove.
Mm-hmm.
You get to hold the birds. We go out and fly with them, depending on the season and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You might see baby birds. We might be out hunting most of the time, just depending on the time of the year and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get the full kind of falconry experience when you show up.
How many of these excursions do you do per year?
I don't have an exact number, but pretty much we're doing probably 4 a weekend every weekend,
Yeah.
and then weekdays are kind of here and there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
between 250 and 400 probably.
So if someone wanted to schedule one, why don't you say how they should reach you either online or whatever your phone number is?
So the best way to reach us is www.falconryexcursions.com. It gives you all the information on the 2 locations that we do them at, one in Goshen, New York, and one in Millbrook, New York. And just gives a description of the location, what's kind of provided at each place, and then the booking is right on the website. So once you decide you want to do it, you can either purchase a gift certificate or actually just schedule your appointment. Just click on where you want to go, and then it'll show you our kind of schedule, and you can go right from there.
Excellent, excellent. So how long in advance, if someone wanted to do this for a gift for, let's say, I don't know, Father's Day or a birthday, how long in advance should they schedule something like this?
I think the minimum we have is about 3 days.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
My
Okay.
birds are working on a regular basis, so
Yep,
it's
yep.
the birds are always going to be ready. It's just making sure that our schedule is good. Goshen is our home facility. That's
Okay.
where all the birds are located.
Yep.
Millbrook, a friend of ours owns a horse farm,
Mm-hmm.
who's also a falconer, and he offered us to allow us to offer them up there for people that are a little further away on the other side of the river and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we offer them up there. We bring the birds to Millbrook.
Okay.
At Goshen, you'll actually be at our facilities and see. No, I can't guarantee you'll see all 100 birds.
Sure,
but
sure.
You'll see a good amount there, but we bring.
Yeah.
You'll have the same experience at whichever location.
Yeah. So of the 100, how many of those are actively, number one, involved in abatement, and number two, involved in the excursion packages?
I'd say about 14.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Training is pretty intensive, isn't it?
Yeah. So when people ask me like, what's the biggest thing when it comes to training these birds, it's time.
Yeah.
You can have all the money in the world, or you could have just a tiny little yard in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the city, basically. If you don't have the time to focus on the bird, you're not getting enough out of it, and neither is the bird.
Yeah. Okay.
So time is the biggest thing. As long as you have time, then falconry is something that you can absolutely get into. But it is it can be intensive. When you're first starting out, you spend a lot of time with the bird. You barely know anything that you're doing, so it's a lot of figuring it out. But that's the whole point: is
Right.
get the bird on your fist, figure it out firsthand.
Right, right.
As a sponsor, if you were to get your license to become an apprentice, me as a sponsor, I'm just there to answer all your questions.
Right.
Anytime a question pops up, I try and give you the best answer.
Yeah.
But you just need to spend as much time
You're
and
the
experience
one.
with
Right.
the birds.
It's your responsibility, basically. Okay.
So I would say most people, when they first start out, even though they're catching a bird, they're training a bird that's from the wild and actually already knows how to hunt. Normally, I'd say it takes about 2 months to get the bird really right where they want them to be. They understand the bird. They kind of the bird understands what the kind of the training is that they're going about and stuff like that. For me, as somebody who's been doing it for, realistically flying, actually training birds for about 24 years. I can get a wild caught immature red tail hunting within probably a week, maybe 2.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So even though, and that brings me to my next point, you were raised by parents who were falconers. Did you still have to go through the process of being an apprentice and becoming a general and then a master falconer?
There's no difference for me from anybody else, just because my
Wow.
parents.
It seems
had
like
the
you should have
birds.
got some life credits.
So, so let's put it this way: had I never applied for a license until now, and
Yeah.
I finally said, you know what, I've lived with my parents my entire life, I
Yeah,
finally want
yeah.
to get my falconry license, I could get letters written that would allow me to kind of jump stages and stuff like that with the experience that I have and
Okay.
stuff.
Yeah.
Having, I was actually the youngest person in New York State to take the falconry exam and pass it.
Wow.
I was 9 years old when I took it.
Wow.
So I took it when I was 9, and the reason for that was, my dad's a bit of a contrarian. He read the regulations and said you have to be 14 to get your license. Don't have to be 14 to take the test. So he encouraged me to do it. I went out, took it, passed the test. I still had to retake it when I turned 14.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Still had to retake it, kind of go through the whole.
It sounds like my
process.
father-in-law.
Yeah.
Okay, so you still had to go through the process, although you passed it at 9 years old.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So then you probably shouldn't have had any problem when you took it again 5 years later.
Did even better.
Excellent, excellent. All right, so I want to see this beauty right here.
Okay. So this is a hood
Yep.
that she's got on right there. The hood is actually where the term hoodwinking comes from.
Really?
For us, it means to pull the shade over somebody's eyes.
Would have never known that.
But in this case, it's basically just to trick her into thinking daytime's nighttime. Because she's just being started to work with, she's a little agitated, and falcons tend to be a little bit more easily agitated than other birds, just because of how they kind of go about hunting and how they live their lives.
Yeah.
So the hood's just there to keep them calm. I've used it while I traveled up here and while she was in the car and stuff like that. And she's been completely calm throughout the whole interview. I'm going to take it off. The first few seconds, she's going to be freaked out because all of a sudden the light's on.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
But then she'll calm right back down again. She'll be
Yeah.
okay.
All right, let's see. Hey, gorgeous. Look at you. You're beautiful. Okay, so this does not look like freaking out to me.
No, she's, like I said, I've been working with her on a regular basis, so she's getting calmer and calmer. With these birds, they have the falcons, the smaller they are, the kind of faster their kind of nervous system is.
Yep.
So just having that faster metabolism, faster nervous system, she tends to get a little bit more freaked out than even just a bigger falcon and stuff like that.
That makes sense.
But this one's kind of unique. So this one's actually one of the rarest falcons that's in North America. This Aplomato falcon is actually getting pushed out of its territory in Southwest United States by other falcons. Not so much of an effect that we're having on the species, similar to previous effects on peregrine falcons and bald eagles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's actually more other birds that are pushing this bird out, but they're doing fine in Mexico and into Central America and stuff like that. They're just in our United States endangered species list. The Aplomato falcon is still listed.
And how long have you been working with her?
Just 2 weeks.
Just 2 weeks.
Yep, she was completely wild 2 weeks ago. She wanted absolutely nothing to do with me.
And did you, was she bred in your barn or was she?
So she was actually bred by a friend of mine out in Las Vegas. And then when she was ready, he put her in a crate, put her on a plane, and shipped her out to me.
You got to fly in a plane? Couldn't you have just used your wings? It seems really inefficient to buy you a plane ticket.
She doesn't have her directions down just yet.
Okay, all right.
So, yeah.
We'll let it go. You're only 9 weeks old. That's all, 9 weeks, right?
9 weeks, yeah.
Okay. Can I hold her?
Sure.
Do you mind? I know you're brand new and I have zero experience, but you're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
So the trick to holding a bird of prey.
Here, how about if I get on the other side, maybe?
You're good right there.
Okay.
So just hold your arm out, keep your elbow kind of tucked in.
Yep.
Right like that. Think of this as a branch. start moving it around and stuff like that, she starts
Yeah.
getting jumpy and stuff. So just keep it still.
Okay.
I'm gonna put her back down there, and she's gonna
This
step
is a
back
branch
on
on a brown tree. Oh wait, all
Yep.
trees are brown.
The branches tend to be. So yeah, just hold that underneath your thumb,
Yep.
and then this
And then
leash
wrap.
is
Okay.
gonna get
So that
wrapped
part
around
I've
your
done
little
before.
finger. And those sayings, so if you've ever heard someone say, "I've got you locked underneath my thumb,"
Yeah.
comes from falconry.
Really?
Yep.
So hoodwinked, I've got you underneath my thumb, and what
And
else?
wrapped around my little
And
fingers.
wrapped around my little finger. All comes from falconry.
Shakespeare was a huge falconer, and he introduced, I think, 70 different words and about 30 different sayings into our lexicon.
Are you serious?
Yep.
You learn something new every day.
Haggard is an old female bird, old female falcon that tends
Yeah.
to be a little bit kind of angrier than the rest.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I didn't know that. Hey, beautiful. How do you like these tasty looking little birds around here, huh?
So she would be very interested in them. The hawks, they're a little too big for the small little songbirds, but that's what she's there for.
Yeah, so I noticed you were feeding them, were they dead rats?
They're chicks, the chickens.
Dead chickens?
Yes.
Okay. And then, but do you feed her the same thing?
For the most part, she gets a lot more quail. I tend to try and feed the
Oh, so
falcons
cute.
quail and the chicks because
Yeah.
falcons are specifically adapted to catch other birds in flight.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they only pretty much eat birds.
Okay.
Whereas the hawks, they'll eat pretty much anything on the ground.
Yeah. So the birds that live in the barn as a part of the breeding project, do they get to just hunt for themselves, or how much do you supplement their diets?
So, yeah, they don't hunt for themselves. I feed them exclusively. I will take, I don't know how much you want to put in this, but I will take fresh things that are freshly alive, kill them
Yeah.
myself to put them basically right into the chambers,
Yeah,
so they're
yeah.
getting the fresh blood and warm blood
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everything like
You
that.
didn't hear that, guinea pig. Honestly, you didn't really hear that. Okay.
So, but a lot of times it's from frozen stuff.
It's from frozen
Yeah.
stuff. But I mean, how would you stop them, right? So if they get to go outside and kind of do their thing, how do you stop them from just getting a chipmunk or a squirrel?
So the birds that are in the breeding projects, they're in their rooms. They're not getting out of their rooms.
Okay.
They're in their rooms all the
Okay.
time.
Okay.
These birds, that is basically always the trick with falconry. What I do when I train them is it's a weight management sort of thing. So I'm constantly weighing him, making sure he's right on track. If he's too hungry, he's going to be manic and be obsessed with the food that I have and not be focused on the training and everything that we want to do.
Yeah.
If he's too heavy, he's not going to be focused on the food that I have, and he's
Yeah.
just going to kind of do his own thing.
Yeah.
Go kind of what we call, cut daisies and stuff like that. Just kind
Right.
of go low over a field or kind of,
Yeah.
hover up, but they'll just do their own thing, or they'll just sit up in a tree and just wait till they're finally hungry enough to come down to you.
Right. Right.
So it's always kind of constantly maintaining that weight. So I will never let the bird go unless it's at that weight where she's responding at.
Okay.
Because
okay.
if I do, I'm asking for trouble.
You're a cutie. Yeah.
I'm asking for her to do something out of the norm, basically.
Right.
So constantly making
That's
sure
a good
she's at
point.
weight.
I mean, hunting is based on hunger. All right. So.
100%.
Yeah.
If she were out in the wild and caught something very big, let's say basically double the size that she is right there. She only
Yeah.
weighs about 200 grams. Let's say she catches something that weighs about a pound.
Yeah.
She catches it. It's in a safe place. She can eat it. She'll fill herself up. She might go back to it again after she's kind of digested a little bit of it.
Yeah.
But if she really fills herself up and gets 3 or 4 days of consecutive meals where she's filling herself up, she might not have to eat again for 2-3 days. That's at her size.
Right.
You take a falcon that's 4 times the size of her, about that big.
Yeah.
Might not have to eat for 4 or 5 days.
That's called Christmas and Thanksgiving. So, do you use vitamin supplements?
We do. With the quail and stuff like that, I don't. And with rodents, I don't really have to.
Okay.
It's pretty much with the chicks that I do. And then during breeding season, we will up their vitamin E and stuff like that to kind of help with the breeding aspect of it. But if I feed them good food, I don't have to supplement. It's the chicks and stuff like that don't have a lot of the calcium, because they're not as 100% developed and stuff like that.
Right.
So, but if it's full-grown rats and full-grown quail, then I'm good to go.
That's what's interesting about predators is that if you do give them just a couple nice good meals, they don't need to eat for a couple days, right? Like that's just how it is. So it's interesting that it's that way with birds also who weigh considerably less than most predators in the wild.
Yep.
That raptors would be the same way. Okay, so I just want to thank you so much for coming here and showing me your birds and telling me all about all the services and advertising. Again, can you say your website and your email and phone numbers again so that if anyone wants to schedule something with you, they can?
Okay, so as far as abatement, any pest control with birds or anything, any of the educational stuff that we do and stuff like that, it's tcbirdmanagement.com. And then if you want to come to our facility and come fly the birds yourselves, it's falconryexcursions.com.
Excellent. I think I'll be your first customer. Well, your first customer after this interview. And what do you have to say? Nothing? She's like, what's that? Nothing? All right. Well, thank you again, Tom.
My pleasure, Jim.